Good morning. Hi everybody, I'm Angie. And if you don't already know me already, I'm Angie. So some of you do know me. So I've been doing these Facebook Live cooking demos where I put together all the ingredients that I have left over in my house and make a dish with it, whatever it might be. I did veggie burgers one week, and then I did wraps one week. This week I'm going to do soup since 'tis the season and it's freezing here in Denver. So this time I'm not doing it live because I've been sick and the timing is just off this week with the new year, but I want to make sure that I put something together. And I actually, because I had very little vegetables, I've been gone for 2 weeks, I had very little vegetables in my refrigerator. I did have a few leftover things like carrots, which last forever, and then actually some green peppers and some garlic and onion. But other than that, all this stuff I had in my cabinets. So depending on what you have available to you, and that's always my caveat every time I do this, you can make the same dish that I'm making, but you can sub anything, and I'll kind of talk through substitutions as I'm going through this. So today I'm going to make a veggie stew, and I'm going to use the Crockpot. So what I found is a lot of people have questions about Crockpot recipes and want to use them, but they're limited and restricted with time. And so the Crockpot you can use anywhere from like a 2-hour time frame to 12 hours. So a lot of times if you have all the ingredients prepped, you can just throw it in the morning and leave it all day. This you could range anywhere from 8 to 12 hours on low at 12 hours. So if you're gone a super long day, this is a great option for you. And for me, I can pop back in and switch it on to high. I'm gonna start it at low and then switch to high. So I'm gonna make this about 8 hours. So it's about 10 o'clock, and then I'm going to have this ready to go by 6, hopefully 6:30. So I'm gonna show you today a vegetable stew, and it's a super hearty stew, and that's usually how I like to make it. And I like to use a lot of beans and legumes. And again, if you don't like the beans that I'm using and you want a sub, I'll give substitutions. And I like to use beans and legumes because I'm mostly plant-based and vegetarian. And so these have super high fiber, lots of protein. So it's a great option for us vegetarians. Now, if you want to add meat, you can always add like a chicken and maybe instead of lentils, you sub it for chicken or whatever. But I'm going to show you today what I'm making, and then kind of talk through the ingredients. So what I've done so far is I've just prepped the crock pot, and I have a slow cooker here. And I want to say this is like 10-gallon one, I think it is. But anyway, it's like the larger size. I love it, and I've had it for years. I know there's an Instapot, and eventually I'll get one and I'll create recipes for that. But I love my crock pot, and it works for us, and it works for me, and so why get rid of something that's great? It's fine. I don't need to have something in an instant. But if you do, then you have an option. So if you just have all the ingredients prepped and ready to go in the morning, you just throw it all in, and you set it, and you're ready to go. For this here, it took me about 15 minutes to prep everything, which is not bad. So to cut the vegetables, figure out what I'm making, peel the vegetables, cut them, a total of 15 minutes. And I rinsed the beans and the legumes. So first thing is the base. So I'm gonna do like a part water base and a part broth base. I love vegetable broth. This is just 365 organic, so it's a Whole Foods version. I'm gonna put the whole thing in here. This is 32 ounces. So you got about 4 cups in here. And then I added about 6 cups of water. So we'll see. And for your grains and things like that, I have quinoa in here, lentils, kidney beans, and then northern beans. And usually for the legumes and the quinoa, you want to do 2 parts water or broth to 1 part of whatever you're putting in it. So I'll kind of explain as I go through. So I'm going to dump the whole thing in here. So I'm going to have a total of 10 cups of liquid as of right now. I kind of start to do this, and then revise along the way. That's just how I roll. So I will let you know any revisions I make, but that's what I'm starting with. And I'm also gonna write this recipe up afterwards and post it on my Facebook page and my Instagram so that everyone can see it and you know how to make this. So you can use a beef broth, a chicken broth, whatever you prefer. I just happen to prefer the veggie broth. This is great. Not super high sodium. You can get the low sodium versions, but that's why I'm mixing it with water. I'm kind of diluting it. So the stuff that I had in my fridge. So I had about a 3/4 of an onion. I had a bunch of celery, but I only cut about three stalks of celery. And then I cut them here, just kind of, I like the thicker, crunchier vegetables in these stews because they end up lasting and they make for a better stew because you have a little bit of bite to them still. I used 3 medium to large sized carrots. These are rainbow carrots. And I did a variation of chopping. So I did some halves. So all I did was peel it first, chopped it into little cylinders like this. Some of them I chopped in half if they got too big. And then some of them I just left here. I could probably actually chop that in half too. Don't get too stuck on this and picky about it. It's like, it's not a big deal. My onions, I just sliced it lengthwise and then I chopped it up a little bit smaller. So my onion pieces are about 1 inch thick. Again, you can chop these up thicker if you prefer. So I have about 3/4 of an onion, 3 large rainbow carrots, and then 3 stalks of celery. Rinse those, chopped these, and I'm gonna add these to the mix. First, I have for my proteins, and mind you, all of these have protein. So my kidney beans, these have 11 grams of protein for 1/4 cup dry. Well, I ended up using 2 cups dry of this. So imagine how that's going to expand into the water. And actually just thinking about this, I'm probably gonna need to add some more water. So I used 2 cups of these kidney beans because that was like the main beans that I had. And then I'm using 1 cup of lentils, and there's 13 grams of protein for 1/4 cup. I used 1 cup here. So that's a lot of protein, 54 grams of protein. 52 grams of protein total for a cup. That's a lot of protein. So great source of fiber, 15 grams of fiber in the lentils and 11 grams of fiber in the kidney beans. So you guys, if you're not using these beans, they're definitely a great add-on to add into your veggie burgers and in your soups. Adds a lot of the nutritional benefits and it keeps you fuller longer. The other thing I added was a can of Great Northern beans. I didn't have the dry, which would be preferred, and I make sure you rinse these first, guys. You don't have to soak them because you're putting them in the crock pot, but just make sure you rinse them. They're in a bowl. And then I had a can of Great Northern beans, which these are not dry. These are already been soaked, but I made sure to rinse those. So I'm gonna add all of these to the mix. So I'm gonna kind of move you over here and show you. So you can see my crock pot here. There we go. So I'm with limited space here, but I just added in, since I don't want to, since I don't have tomatoes, frankly, I'm just using this tomato paste, which is really nice. It only has about 30 grams of sodium, so it's not bad. So I added in this into the mix, and then I filled it with water. So now I'm kind of like brim full with this guy. It's pretty full. I also added in a cup of rinsed quinoa. So my phone rang and like my phone cut out. So next time it's gonna go on Do Not Disturb mode. But anyways, I also had 1 green pepper that I had left over. So I was like, this is a perfect time to use it because again, another crunchy vegetable to add in. It'll also add some nice flavor. So that's basically all it is. Look how full it is. Super, super simple. I'm gonna put this on low to start. But ideally you would want this to cook like 8 to 10 hours. If you put it in the morning, depending on how much time you have, just start it on low, keep it on low. If you end up coming home early, you can switch it to high, but like 8 to 10 is like perfect. 8 would be great. So if you put it on, just put it on low, and then you can always knock up the heat if you need to. But you just let this bad boy sit here and cook, and it's gonna be a delicious, amazing stew slash soup when you get done with it. It's gonna be pretty thick and hearty, so I'm very excited to see how it turns out. But give it a try, let me know if you try it and if you like it. And I plan to do these once a week with leftovers and things. So if you're not already following me on like Instagram or Facebook, make sure you do, and I'll let you know when these are. They're live, so you can ask me questions. And also looking for feedback from you guys on what you want to see. Is it leftovers?